Chapter 2. The Town Beyond the Map. By the time the first house appeared, the evening light had already begun to thin. The road narrowed without announcement. What had been an open plain narrowed into a corridor of low trees and brush, their branches tangled and unpruned, as if no one had bothered to cut them back in years. The wind did not move as freely here. It slipped between structures and vanished. Elias slowed his horse. The house stood alone at first. Weathered boards had gone silver with age, and the roof sagged slightly at its center. The windows were intact but dim, reflecting the sky rather than revealing what lay inside. No smoke rose from the chimney. A fence leaned around the perimeter, its posts bowed outward like tired men bracing against weather they no longer resisted. Another house appeared farther ahead, then another. Too far apart to feel like a proper town, too close together to be wilderness. There was no visible boundary, no painted sign, no steeple cutting upward to mark the heart of it. He had seen frontier settlements before. Frontier folk usually made a point of announcing themselves. A church spire, however small, children darting between yards, the steady ring of hammer on nail. Here there was only arrangement without center. He guided the horse forward. A woman stood near a wash line strung between two crooked posts. She had been pinning a shirt when she noticed him. The cloth remained suspended in her hand, half-fastened. Her fingers stilled on the fabric as though she had forgotten what she meant to do. She did not wave or retreat. She simply watched him with a measured gaze. Farther down the road, a man splitting wood paused mid-swing, the axe resting against his shoulder. Another figure leaned in the doorway of what might have been a tavern, arms folded loosely across his chest. He listened for a welcoming child shout or even the warning growl of a dog, but the only sound was the rhythmic thud of his horse's hooves against the dust. There was comfort in anonymity, in being merely another traveler passing through. Then he realized he was not unseen. Every eye followed the slow progress of his horse. He cleared his throat and drew the reins to a halt beside the man with the axe. "Good evening," he said. The man lowered the tool but did not step closer. "Evening." The voice was not unfriendly, only level. "I was told there was a settlement beyond the ridge. I'm looking for lodging, if any such thing may be found." "There's room," the man answered, too quickly. Elias noticed the immediacy of it, as though the response had been waiting. "At the boarding house," the man added, gesturing vaguely inward, though there appeared to be no true center. "Or the widow Mercer's, if she'll have you." "I'm grateful. And the church?" The man's eyes shifted, not away, but past him. For a moment, no one spoke. Then the man nodded toward the far edge of town. "You'll see it." The words were simple, yet something in the tone suggested he would not miss it. Elias inclined his head and nudged the horse forward. As he moved deeper between the houses, the silence changed character. It was no longer the wide, open quiet of the plains. It was contained now, pressed inward by walls and narrow lanes. He could hear the creak of boards beneath shifting weight inside unseen rooms, the faint scrape of chair legs, low voices that stopped when he passed. One chimney finally released a thin ribbon of smoke, but it rose reluctantly and dispersed almost at once into the gray air. He looked instinctively for the steeple again. There was none. No bell tower, no cross rising above the rooftops. The absence struck him harder than he expected. A town without a visible church felt like a body without a spine. He turned where the road curved and saw it, or what remained. The church stood at the outermost edge of the settlement, as if it had been pushed there. The structure had collapsed inward on itself. Charred beams jutted at irregular angles, blackened and split. The stone foundation remained intact, but scarred with long black streaks of soot. One section of the wall stood partially upright, the window frame empty, its glass long since gone. The smell reached him before he dismounted. Old smoke. Not fresh, not sharp, settled, embedded. A scent that had worked itself into wood and stone and the ground beneath. Several townspeople had followed at a distance. They gathered now without speaking, forming a loose half-circle behind him. He stepped down slowly. Ash shifted beneath his boots but did not scatter easily. It clung. A warped iron nail lay near the entrance. He bent and picked it up. The metal had twisted unnaturally, as if softened and then frozen mid-movement. "It happened in the night," someone said. He turned. An older man stood with his hands folded. His hair was thin and white, his face deeply lined. "Pastor Elric never even screamed," the man continued. "Not that anyone heard." The woman from the wash line stood slightly behind him now, her shawl drawn tight. "It spread too fast," she said, "like oil had been poured." Another voice, younger and uncertain, spoke from the back. "The doors wouldn't open." A small murmur followed. "The hinges melted," someone countered quickly. "Well, that's not how—" A sharp look from the elder silenced the objection. "It was God's will," he said firmly. The words settled heavily. Another figure muttered, barely audible, "Fire does not behave like that on its own." No one acknowledged it. Elias moved closer to the ruins. Near what would have been the altar, something metallic protruded from the debris. He brushed aside loose ash and uncovered the lower portion of a cross. Iron, blackened, partially melted. The metal had slumped slightly, as if bowing. The old pastoral instinct rose in him, the reflex to steady, to interpret. "The Lord gives and the Lord takes away," he began. The sentence faltered. He was suddenly aware that he did not know if he believed it in this place. The townspeople watched him carefully, not with accusation, with hunger. It unsettled him more than hostility would have. They were not asking him to explain the fire. They were waiting to see whether he could make it mean something. Wind moved through the skeletal beams, producing a low, hollow tone. He stiffened. The sound faded. Only air through ruin. "We have been without guidance," the elder said at last. The pause before the final word was deliberate. Elias turned toward them. The light had dropped further. Faces were losing their edges. "A town should not be without a shepherd," the elder continued. "Not for long." The woman's eyes shone faintly. "Anything is better than silence," she said. The sentence struck him harder than he expected. Silence. He had left one behind. He still carried another. For a fleeting instant he felt watched, not by the town, but something that did not stand among them. He turned sharply toward the distant tree line. Nothing moved, only shadow thickening with dusk. The invitation to stay. The Mercer house stood near what might once have been considered the center, though no true center revealed itself. It was larger than the surrounding homes, its boards straighter, its roof better kept. A lantern burned beside the door. Widow Mercer opened it before he knocked. She was not old, though grief had drawn her face tight at the edges. Her eyes moved first to his collar, then to his hands, then to his face. "You've come a long way," she said. Not a question. "Yes, ma'am." "You'll come inside." Again, not a question. The interior was warmer than he expected. Firelight filled the room with slow movement and shadow. A long wooden table had been set with more places than the household required. The chairs were spaced close enough that knees would nearly touch once everyone was seated. He noticed that immediately. They had expected him. The heat should have been comforting. Instead, it unsettled him. He reached for the bowl more quickly than necessary. They ate. For a few minutes there was only the sound of spoons against the ceramic and the low movement of the fire. Warmth seeped gradually into his fingers. He realized, with a flicker of embarrassment, how hungry he was. The elder cleared his throat. "We heard from a trader that you were traveling west," he said. "He said you'd lost your parish." "I left it," Elias said quietly. A pause. "Of course," the elder replied. "Circumstances." Widow Mercer's gaze remained steady. "We have been without a pastor since the fire," she said. "And before that?" "Well, Pastor Elric was here near 15 years. "And he died in the fire?" The tavern keeper shifted. "He burned in it. Whether he died before or after is known only to God." No one rebuked him. Elias felt the room tighten. "And since then?" "We have managed," the elder said. The word carried weight. "People are restless," the tavern keeper added quietly. "Fire like that, it does something. Makes a man wonder what holds. Makes sleep come strange." The line settled uneasily in the room. "You wish me to stay," Elias said at last. It was not a question. town should not be without a shepherd, the elder replied. Widow Mercer's hands tightened slightly around her bowl. Anything is better than silence. Again that word, silence. The creek, the birthing room, the long road west. He imagined leaving at dawn and riding past the last house without looking back. The thought brought a flicker of relief. Then shame followed close behind it. What is a shepherd who walks past a flock without a fence? The phrase surfaced unbidden. He set his spoon down. I cannot promise certainty, he said. No one interrupted. I cannot promise answers for what has happened here, but I can remain. For a time. If you would have me. Relief moved through the room almost physically. We would have you, the elder said, trying to hide his eagerness. The fire popped sharply in the hearth. For a moment, Elias again felt the faint sensation from the church ruin, the sense of something listening. He turned slightly toward the window. Only the room reflected back at him. Firelight, faces, movement. Beyond it, full darkness had settled. He told himself the feeling was just his imagination influenced by fatigue and grief. He looked down at his hands. They trembled faintly. He pressed them flat against his knees until the tremor stilled. He had told himself he was riding toward something. Now the truth felt simpler. He had stopped riding, and something, whatever had burned and whatever lingered in the town's long silence, had been waiting for him to do exactly that. Outside, beyond the lantern's reach, the wind moved once through the narrow lanes of the town and then fell still.